In this video, I'm going to show you how to figure out your debt to income ratio with or without a debt to income ratio calculator. Also, I'm going to show you how to fix your debt to income ratio if it's too high. So if you're ready, go ahead and hit that like button for me, turn it blue so other people know how to figure out their debt to income ratio and how to fix it as well. So with that said, let's get into it. Your DTI, which stands for debt to income ratio, is very, very important whenever it comes to wanting to borrow money. There are two things that lenders are looking for whenever they're determining if they want to lend out money to you. And one of them is your credit report and the other is your DTI. If you have a good credit report and you have a low debt to income ratio, lenders are more than willing to lend money out to you. And as we talk about here on this YouTube channel, whenever you're wanting to buy investment properties, your DTI comes into play a lot. So if your DTI is higher than a certain threshold for a bank, they're not going to lend out money to you and you can't be buying an investment property. With that said, knowing how to figure out your debt to income ratio and how to lower it is vitally important. So knowing how to figure out your debt to income ratio and how to lower it is a big part in securing lending. I remember about 4 years ago, before I even knew what DTI even stood for, knowing what I know today, I could probably guess that my DTI was about 80%. And as you will figure out later in this video, an 80% DTI is really, really bad. That means if I was making $1,000 a month from my job, that means 800 of that $1,000 was going out the door to pay my debts. As I said earlier, after we figure out what your DTI is, I'm going to show you how to fix it because back then I had an 80% DTI and I fixed it. And I think now I'm going to route a 14% DTI. To show you how to figure out what your debt to income ratio is, we're going to use my stick figure Tom. He's going to be our example person for us, and to figure out what his DTI ratio is, we first need to figure out what his debts are. Here is a breakdown of his debts, and now it's certainly not limited to these debts because you might have something that you are having to pay on every single month that Tom is not. Here are some of the common things included in your debt. So Tom has rent, and you can substitute this with a mortgage of $1,000 a month. So that's the first thing that he has a debt. And here's something you need to know about your rent or your mortgage. If you have a significant other, a spouse, or roommates, if you were to renting an apartment, you cannot split that in half. You have to use all of that monthly payment against yourself because let's just say, for example, unfortunately, if you and your spouse were to separate or the roommates were to move out, you are now stuck with that payment. That's the reason why you have to include this in your DTI ratios, because whenever lenders are looking at you, they have to also assume that the person might move out and now you're stuck with that. That's why you have to use either all of your rent or all of your mortgage against yourself, because whenever lenders are looking at you, they have to assume the worst. Next, Tom has a car payment of $500 a month. And again, these are common things that are going to be included in your debt to income ratio. Next, he has credit cards and he's paying about $100 a month in his credit card bill. After that, he's paying some student loans, about $300 a month. Next, he is paying child support, which comes to about $500 a month. Now, if you add all of these things together, you come up with a total of $2,400 in debt that Tom has to pay every single month. Now, the next thing we have to figure out is what is Tom's income. And Tom, we're going to just say that he works at an IT firm and he makes about $10,000 a month. We're just going to make things super, super easy. The only thing left to do to get your debt to income ratio is take your debt and divide it by your income. So Tom's debts are $2,400 a month and his income is $10,000 a month. So you just divide those two numbers and you're going to come up with 0.24. Now, to get a percentage of this number, you're going to just move the decimal point over 2 places to the right and you get 24%. A 24% DTI is a really, really good debt to income ratio in the eyes of lenders. That means Tom can now go out and buy a house, and rather than paying rent, he could be paying a mortgage instead, or he could be buying an investment property and supplement his income. That's how you do it yourself. And if you don't want to do it on a piece of paper or on your phone, go to a website called bankrate.com and they have a debt to income ratio calculator for you. But it's a lot easier if you just do it yourself because you don't have to go through Bankrate, because all they're going to do is run the calculations for you and you still have to figure out all this information yourself. So what your debts are and what your income is. So really, these debt to income ratio calculators are just fancy calculators. That's why I say it's easier just to do it yourself, because you already have the information. You just have to put it in your calculator on your phone and just divide the numbers. I told you earlier, I'm going to help you lower your DTI, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Here are some easy ways to lower your DTI. One way is is to get a crappier car. I know people don't want to be hearing this, but it is a great way to lower your DTI, because if you have a car payment of $500 a month and you can trade that in and get a car payment of $200 a month, that's going to significantly lower your DTI. The second way to lower your DTI is by getting a personal loan, because if you think about it, your credit cards, let's just say for example, they have a 24% interest rate. A personal loan can range, and this depends on your credit report, it can range between like 10 and 14 to 17%. And that's obviously a lot lower than what your credit cards are. So overall, whenever you are consolidating all your debts from your credit cards and under one personal loan, you're now going to be left with a lower overall monthly payment than you were paying collectively with your credit cards. So this is also going to lower your DTI, but obviously do your research beforehand. The third way is by getting a side hustle so you can increase your income. The wider the gap between your income and your debts are, the better your DTI ratio is going to be. If you made it this far in the video, I want you to comment in the comments down below this video, I made it. And the second thing I want you to do, I talked about widening the gap between your income and your debts. So if you want to pick up a side hustle in 2022, I made a video specifically on that, and it's gonna be popping up right here. So if you wanna go check it out, go check it out. But until the next video, I'm out. See ya.